Imagine a planet that seems to have leapt straight from the canvas of an artist's wildest dreams, a place where every detail pulses with life and vibrancy. This is Viridia, a realm where emerald landscapes stretch endlessly, dotted with crystalline forests that shimmer under the ethereal glow of twin moons. Rivers here aren't ordinary, they ripple with a silvery sheen, weaving through the terrain like liquid starlight. The skies above are a constantly shifting masterpiece, painted in bold strokes of violet and gold, creating a celestial dance that never ceases to amaze. Every blade of grass hums softly, a subtle symphony of bioluminescence that makes the entire planet feel alive, as if it breathes and whispers secrets to those who dare to listen. Amidst this surreal paradise stands Emma, her gaze fixed on the stark contrast of a human outpost nestled uncomfortably in the valley below. As the daughter of the High Counselor of the Athren, Emma is no stranger to attention. Her people view her as the epitome of perfection, her iridescent skin glows faintly under Viridia's moons, her eyes resemble shifting galaxies, and her voice possesses a dual ability to soothe or command with equal ease. Yet to Emma, these attributes feel more like a curse than a blessing. Everywhere she goes, suitors trail behind, each vying for her favor with displays of strength, intellect, or creativity that grow increasingly outlandish. The mating rituals of her kind are exhausting, a relentless parade of admiration and competition that leaves her yearning for something genuine. It was during one of her meditative retreats that Emma first encountered Michael, a human whose presence felt refreshingly real amidst the sea of pretense. Their initial interaction, accidental yet profound, planted a seed of curiosity within her. While her people crafted elaborate sonnets and postured for admiration, Michael was wrestling with an uncooperative water filtration unit, muttering under his breath about its stubborn refusal to function. His candid frustration struck a chord with Emma, whose laughter startled a nearby Athren male attempting to serenade her with a telepathic harp sonata. For the first time, Emma found herself intrigued by someone whose thoughts were clumsy and sarcastic, yet undeniably authentic. That night, under the glowing moons of Viridia, Emma made a decision. No more would she endure the hollow grandeur of her people's courtship rituals. She would seek out Michael Clark, the human whose unconventional approach to life intrigued her more than all the polished performances of her peers. Little did she know, this choice would set the stage for an encounter that would challenge her perceptions, reshape her world, and ultimately lead her toward a path of unexpected freedom and connection. Michael Clark's journal entry for Day 42 of Research Mission Alpha V began with the same awestruck observation he had scribbled countless times before: Viridia is beautiful. But unlike previous entries, this one carried an undercurrent of frustration. The planet's splendor was undeniable, its flora pulsed with an otherworldly glow, rivers shimmered like molten silver, and even the rocks radiated a faint luminescence, but its ceaseless luminosity made sleep an elusive luxury. He muttered into his cup of coffee, "I'm starting to think this planet doesn't want anyone to rest." Clementine, the station's ever-present AI assistant, chimed in with her usual dose of pragmatism. "Adjust your circadian rhythm to match the light cycle," she suggested. Translation: stop complaining and adapt. Michael scratched at the stubble on his jaw, squinting at the source of his latest aggravation, the water filtration unit. It sat there, defiant and unyielding, mocking him with its silence. Being the sole xenobiologist stationed on Viridia had once seemed like a dream job. He had imagined himself immersed in the study of an uncharted ecosystem, documenting alien life forms, and reveling in solitude. What the recruitment posters hadn't mentioned was how isolating that solitude could feel. His days were punctuated by conversations with Clementine, who was programmed to assist but rarely comfort. When frustration bubbled over, he'd ask her, half-jokingly, why he had signed up for this mission in the first place. "You believed it would be an incredible opportunity to advance human understanding of alien biospheres," she replied in her flat monotone. Michael groaned audibly. "Please don't remind me," he muttered, reaching for his mug again. The station itself was a modest affair, a collection of cramped research labs, a tiny kitchenette, and a sleeping pod barely large enough to accommodate one person. Its walls were lined with shelves cluttered with tools, specimen jars, and notes scrawled in shorthand only Michael could decipher. To an outsider, it might have appeared chaotic, but to him, it was home, or as close to one as he could expect while stationed light years away from Earth. Despite the isolation, Michael had grown fond of the quirks of his environment. The hum of the ventilation system became white noise, and the persistent glow of Viridia's landscape outside his window provided a strange sense of companionship. Yet, the solitude weighed on him more than he cared to admit. There were moments when he caught himself talking aloud, not to Clementine but to the empty air, as if verbalizing his thoughts could fill the void. He often found himself staring at the phosphorescent squirrels that barked like dogs outside his lab window, marveling at their peculiar behavior. They reminded him of Earth's wildlife, albeit with a twist of alien absurdity. These small encounters grounded him, offering fleeting reminders of home amid the strangeness of Viridia. When the outer door chime sounded, cutting through the stillness of the station, Michael froze. Visitors were rare, and the thought of company, even unexpected, sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He turned toward the monitor displaying the external camera feed, expecting to see a malfunctioning drone or perhaps a stray piece of equipment blown astray by the wind. Instead, standing bathed in the soft glow of Viridia's twin moons, was the most otherworldly figure he had ever seen. For a moment, Michael simply stared, unsure whether what he was seeing was real or a hallucination brought on by weeks of inadequate sleep and too much instant coffee. The figure exuded an ethereal quality, her glowing patterns shifting subtly against the backdrop of the alien night. She tilted her head slightly, as if assessing him with the same mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Michael felt an odd pang of self-consciousness, suddenly acutely aware of his disheveled appearance, his unruly hair, his rumpled clothes, the grease smudge on his sleeve from earlier repairs. Hi, he blurted out, his voice breaking the silence. Can I help you? The figure didn't respond immediately. Instead, she extended her hand in a gesture Michael couldn't quite interpret. Then, without warning, a voice resonated in his mind, not spoken aloud but transmitted directly into his thoughts. Greetings, Michael Clark. I am Sophia of the Athren. I come in peace. Michael jumped, nearly dropping his wrench. Who said that? He demanded, looking around wildly. I did, came the reply, calm and measured. I spoke directly to your mind. Directly to my, oh great, now I'm hearing voices. Clem, are you recording this? Recording initiated, Clementine replied promptly. Sophia frowned, her luminous features furrowing slightly. It is not a voice. It is telepathy, a common practice among my kind. Michael squinted at her, trying to process the situation. Telepathy, huh? Okay, if you're in my head, then what number am I thinking of? Sophia hesitated, clearly perplexed by the question. That is not how telepathy works. Crossing his arms, Michael looked unconvinced. Right. And you're definitely not a hallucination brought on by 2 straight weeks of terrible instant coffee? For a moment, the absurdity of the situation hung in the air. Then, to Michael's astonishment, Sophia laughed, a sound so bright and musical that it made the fluorescent light overhead flicker. Well, he said, grinning despite himself, if you're real and not here to vaporize me, I guess I should offer you coffee. Sophia smiled, her patterns glowing faintly with amusement. I would like that, though I must warn you, I do not know what coffee is. Oh, you're in for a treat, Michael said, already reaching for the kettle. Unless, of course, you have a thing against bitter caffeinated beverages that taste slightly burnt. As he brewed the coffee, Michael marveled at how natural this interaction felt. Sophia wasn't like the Athren he had read about in intercepted transmissions, no posturing, no formality, just a being who seemed genuinely curious about him. And as the night wore on, under the twin moons of Viridia, an unlikely connection began to form between the alien girl who craved freedom and the human man who had thought he wanted solitude. As Sophia sat cross-legged on the flat patch of ground near the station, her glowing patterns dimming slightly in what Michael had learned was the Athren equivalent of uncertainty. The tension in the air was palpable. "I do not often sit on the ground," she admitted, her voice tinged with hesitation. "Well, consider this a cultural exchange," Michael said, patting the old blanket he had spread out for their stargazing session. "Besides, it's good for you, builds character." Sophia gave him a skeptical look but finally settled onto the blanket, her movements graceful and deliberate, a sharp contrast to Michael's casual sprawl. Together, they gazed up at the sky, where Viridia's twin moons hung like sentinels, surrounded by countless stars. "It's strange," Michael began, breaking the comfortable silence. "Back on Earth, the stars always felt so far away. But here, I don't know, it's like they're closer somehow." Sophia tilted her head, her glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. "Perhaps it is not the stars that feel closer, but the connections you make beneath them." Michael glanced at her, surprised by the unexpected depth of her words. "That's poetic. Do all Athren talk like that, or is it just you?" Sophia smiled faintly. "It is a trait of our kind, though most use it to impress rather than to connect." "Guess I lucked out then," Michael said, grinning. "I get the one Athren who talks poetry but still knows how to make a joke." They fell into a comfortable silence, broken only by the soft hum of the forest around them. After a while, Sophia turned her gaze to Michael, her expression thoughtful. "You asked earlier if I had a plan. Truthfully, I do not. I only know that I feel at peace here in a way I have not felt in a very long time." "Well," Michael said, leaning back on his elbows, "you're welcome to stay as long as you want. The station's not exactly luxurious, but it's got running water and bad coffee. What more could you need?" Sophia chuckled softly. "I appreciate your hospitality, though I suspect my presence will not go unnoticed for long." Michael raised an eyebrow. "You mean your fan club?" "Yes," Sophia said, her tone growing serious. "They will not take kindly to my absence. And if they discover I am here?" Michael sat up, his grin fading. "What happens then?" Sophia's luminous gaze met his. "I do not know, but I fear it will not be peaceful." Michael exhaled slowly, his mind racing. "Well," he said, forcing a smile, "if they show up, I'll just tell them you're busy. Maybe they'll take a number and wait their turn." Sophia's lips twitched into a smile, but the worry in her eyes remained. "You truly are unlike anyone I have ever met, Michael Clark." "Yeah, well," Michael said, lying back down, "just wait until you try pizza. Then you'll see what humanity's really about." For the rest of the night, they lay under the stars, sharing stories and laughter, even as the shadow of what might come loomed just out of sight. The next morning, Michael's routine started the way most did on Viridia, with a sharp crack and an ominous hissing sound. The station's alarm blared to life, sending him tumbling out of his cot with all the grace of a startled cat. Grabbing his communicator, he stumbled into the main room, squinting at the flashing console. "Please tell me that's just the coffee maker acting up again," he muttered, tapping at the screen. Sophia appeared in the doorway, her hair glowing faintly in the dim light. She was impossibly calm, holding a mug of coffee like it was a casual Tuesday. "Your coffee maker does not typically cause seismic disturbances, does it?" Michael sighed. "Not usually, no. Let's see what we're dealing with." The console displayed a series of alerts. A sleek, unmistakably Athren reconnaissance vessel had breached Viridia's atmosphere and was making a beeline for their location. "Well," Michael said, leaning back in his chair, "that's probably not Amazon delivering my replacement filters." Sophia stepped closer, her serene demeanor faltering. "It is an Athren reconnaissance vessel. They must have tracked me here." "Great," Michael muttered. "Guess the Intergalactic fan club found you after all." Sophia's expression turned serious. "You must remain calm. I will handle this." "Handle this?" Michael exclaimed. "They're probably here with lasers and angry poetry." What am I supposed to do, offer them coffee and a handshake? Sophia didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the console. Prepare yourself, Michael Clark. They are persistent. As the ship landed with dramatic flair, kicking up dust and sending local wildlife scurrying for cover, Michael and Sophia watched from the edge of the station. 3 figures descended in synchronized precision. The leader was tall, even by Athren's standards, with metallic patterns across his face that shimmered like liquid silver. His companions flanked him, their stances rigid and their glowing eyes locked on Sophia. Sophia Taver, the leader called out, his voice echoing unnaturally in the still air. You have been requested to return to Athra. Your absence disrupts the harmony of our kind. Sophia stepped forward, her posture regal. My absence disrupts nothing, Varric. It is the obsession of those like you that creates imbalance. Varric's gaze shifted to Michael, his expression flickering with disdain. And this human, what role does he play in your rebellion? Michael raised a hand in an awkward wave. Hey there. I'm Michael. Big fan of, diplomacy and not getting disintegrated, you know. Varric's lips curled in a sneer. You allow yourself to be distracted by this primitive? It is beneath you. Hey. Michael protested. I'm not a primitive. I've got a PhD in a decent sense of humor, thank you very much. Sophia's glowing patterns flared faintly, a sign Michael had come to associate with annoyance or maybe amusement. Michael Clark is more than you could comprehend, Varric. And I will not return to Athra simply because you demand it. Varric's silver patterns darkened, a sign of his growing frustration. You risk war for this defiance. War. Michael interjected, holding up a hand. Let's pump the brakes here, shiny guy. Can't we just talk this out? Maybe over some tea or a nice game of charades. Varric ignored him, his focus locked on Sophia. You will come with us willingly or not. Sophia's gaze hardened. I will do no such thing. The situation might have escalated further if not for the sudden, inexplicable appearance of a Viridian wildling, a creature resembling a cross between a kangaroo and a jellyfish. It bounced into the clearing, its translucent limbs wobbling comically as it let out a high-pitched trill. The Athren guards froze, clearly uncertain how to react. Michael, unable to resist, whispered to Sophia, is it just me, or does that thing look like it escaped from a cartoon? Sophia suppressed a smile. It is harmless, though quite curious. The wildling hopped closer, apparently unfazed by the tense standoff. It paused in front of Varric, tilting its gelatinous head as though inspecting him. Then, without warning, it leaped onto his chest, wrapping its wobbly limbs around him in what could only be described as an alien hug. Michael doubled over with laughter as Varric flailed, trying to pry the creature off. Oh man, this is gold. Do Athren not have a protocol for surprise cuddles? Sophia shook her head, her amusement evident. Wildlings are not native to our world. It seems Varric is unprepared. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to assist their leader or maintain their stoic composure. Meanwhile, Varric managed to dislodge the wildling, which trilled indignantly before bouncing away into the forest. Is this what you choose, Sophia? Varric demanded, his voice tinged with fury. To associate with chaos and absurdity? Sophia stepped forward, her expression calm but unyielding. What I choose, Varric, is freedom. I am not bound by the expectations of our people, nor will I be swayed by your threats. Varric's glowing patterns flickered, his frustration evident. You will regret this. Michael, still catching his breath from laughing, waved cheerfully. Bye, Varric. Don't let the wildlings hug you on the way out. As the Athren ship ascended into the sky, Michael turned to Sophia, his grin fading slightly. So, what now? Do you think they'll come back? They will, Sophia said, her tone resolute. But we will be ready. Ready? Michael asked, raising an eyebrow. I don't exactly have a stockpile of alien weaponry lying around. Sophia smiled faintly. You have something far more powerful, Michael Clark. And what's that? She placed a glowing hand on his shoulder, her gaze steady. Your capacity for hope and humor. It will serve us well in the challenges to come. Michael blinked, then chuckled. No pressure, huh? As the stars returned to their tranquil dance above them, the two of them stood side by side, a human and an alien, preparing for whatever the universe decided to throw at them next. Michael was knee-deep in breakfast, or rather, what was left of it, when the station's alarm chimed again. He groaned, poking at the stubborn toaster that had just charred his bread into something resembling carbonized rubble. Seriously, he muttered, waving the smoke away, the universe can't even let me have a decent breakfast anymore. Sophia appeared in the doorway, radiant as ever, though her expression was more amused than concerned. Is this another human ritual I should understand? The burning of food as an offering to the morning? Yeah, it's a sacred tradition, Michael quipped, pointing at the smoldering toast. We call it disaster dining. The alarm blared again, cutting off his sarcasm. Sophia tilted her head, the patterns on her skin dimming briefly as she processed the alert. This signal is unfamiliar. It does not originate from my people. Michael frowned, abandoning the ruined breakfast as he moved to the console. A strange energy signature was pinging the station's sensors, emanating from a nearby ridge. Well, that's new, he said, scanning the data. Looks like some kind of tech, not a Thren though. Something older. Sophia leaned closer, her glowing eyes narrowing. We should investigate. It could be significant, or dangerous. Right, Michael said, grabbing his gear. Because dangerous is exactly what my morning was missing. The ridge was a short hike from the station, though the uneven terrain made it feel longer. Michael stumbled over rocks and roots, muttering under his breath as Sophia floated beside him with infuriating ease. Enjoying the view? He asked, panting as they reached the top. It is quite picturesque, Sophia replied, glancing at him with a faint smile. Though your coordination leaves much to be desired. Thanks, Michael grumbled, brushing dirt off his pants. I'll add mocked by an alien princess to my growing list of humiliations. Below them, nestled in a shallow ravine, was the source of the signal, a circular structure half buried in the rocky soil, its metallic surface tarnished with age and etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly. Okay, Michael said, pulling out his scanner, what are we looking at here? Ancient alien Wi-Fi router? Galactic Roomba? Sophia's expression turned serious as she approached the structure, her fingers lightly tracing the symbols. This is a Thren, but it predates my people's current era. It is an artifact of our ancestors. Great, Michael said. So it's an ancient alien mystery. I'm sure nothing could possibly go wrong with poking it. Sophia shot him a look but said nothing, her focus on the artifact. The energy signature suggested it was dormant but intact. If we can activate it. Activate it? Michael interrupted. Is that really a good idea? I mean, for all we know, it could be an interstellar bug zapper. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Do you always assume the worst? Only when ancient alien tech is involved, Michael said. Or when toast is involved, apparently. Despite Michael's reservations, they worked together to decipher the artifact's symbols. Sophia's knowledge of her people's history was invaluable, though she occasionally struggled to explain concepts in human terms. What do you mean it sings to the stars? Michael asked, staring at her in confusion. Sophia sighed. The Thren word encompasses communication, resonance, and harmonic energy. Your language is limited. Hey, my language does just fine, Michael countered. We've got over 100 ways to describe coffee, for starters. Sophia ignored him, focusing instead on aligning the artifact's glowing panels. When the last symbol clicked into place, the structure hummed to life, sending a pulse of light into the sky. Was it supposed to do that? Michael asked, stepping back instinctively. Sophia didn't answer. Her glowing patterns brightened as she reached out her hand, hovering over the artifact's surface. The hum grew louder, and Michael felt a strange vibration in the air, like the resonance of a tuning fork. Then abruptly, the light dimmed, and the artifact fell silent. Well, Michael said after a long pause, that was anticlimactic. Sophia tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. It was not a failure. The artifact responded. It merely requires something more. Something more? Michael asked. Like what? Batteries? An emotional pep talk. Before Sophia could respond, a new sound echoed through the ravine, a low, rhythmic thrum that sent a chill down Michael's spine. That's not the artifact, he said, glancing around nervously. Sophia's gaze sharpened. No, that is a ship. A shadow passed overhead, and Michael looked up to see a sleek black vessel descending rapidly. It wasn't a Thren, its angular design and matte finish were entirely unfamiliar. The ship landed with a hiss of hydraulics, its ramp lowering to reveal 3 figures in dark, featureless armor. They moved with unnerving precision, their weapons trained on Michael and Sophia. Well, Michael said, raising his hand slowly, guess the universe heard I was bored. Sophia stepped in front of him, her posture protective. You do not belong here, she said, her voice firm. The lead figure didn't respond. Instead, it raised a device, a small glowing orb that emitted a high-pitched whine. Michael winced, feeling a sharp pressure in his head. Okay, that's rude, he muttered, clutching his temples. Sophia's glowing patterns flared brightly, and the pressure abruptly stopped. The lead figure staggered, its device sparking and fizzling. Nice. Michael said, giving Sophia a thumbs up. Can you do that again? Maybe with more explosions. The armored figures regrouped, their movements more cautious now. Sophia's stance remained steady, her glowing eyes locked on them. They are not a Thren, she said quietly, but they have knowledge of our artifacts. We must not let them take it. Right, Michael said, glancing at the artifact. And how exactly are we supposed to stop them? Grow rocks? Sophia didn't answer. Instead, she extended her hand toward the artifact, her glowing patterns pulsing in time with its faint hum. The air around them seemed to ripple, and Michael felt a strange energy surge through him. What are you doing? He asked, his voice tinged with both awe and panic. Trust me, Sophia said. Ethan sighed. Famous last words. As the armored figures advanced, the artifact flared to life, sending a wave of energy that knocked them off their feet. Michael blinked, momentarily blinded by the light. When his vision cleared, the figures were retreating, their ship lifting off in a hasty escape. Well, Michael said, exhaling in relief, that was intense. Sophia turned to him, her expression calm but determined. This is only the beginning, Michael Clark. They will return. Of course they will, Michael said, slumping against a rock. Because nothing says fun like being hunted by mysterious space ninjas. Despite the danger, he couldn't help but smile. Life with Sophia was never boring. The station had seen better days after the encounter with the mysterious armored figures. Michael spent the morning patching up what he could, muttering unflattering things about intergalactic trespassers under his breath. Meanwhile, Sophia sat cross-legged in the center of the main lab, her glowing patterns flickering as she meditated. The air inside the station was heavy with anticipation, a quiet acknowledgement that their troubles were far from over. You know, Michael said, tightening a bolt on the station's exterior, if I had known working on an alien research station came with a side of space warfare, I would have negotiated for hazard pay. Sophia opened one eye, her expression unreadable. Your humor is your defense mechanism, is it not? Yep, Michael said, wiping grease from his hands. That and the occasional sarcastic comment. Very effective against overwhelming existential dread. Sophia closed her eye again, the faint hum of her energy filling the silence. Michael watched her for a moment, then turned back to the console. The scans from the artifact were still running, but they didn't offer much clarity. "All right," he said, pulling up a chair, "let's talk strategy. Those space ninjas, who were they, and why did they want the artifact?" Sophia's voice was calm but firm. "They are not of Athra, but they have studied our ways. Their interest in the artifact suggests they seek to exploit its power." "Great," Michael muttered. "So we're dealing with alien scavengers. Any chance we can, I don't know, outsmart them? Set up some traps, maybe a giant pit covered with leaves?" Sophia's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. "Your creativity is commendable, though perhaps not practical." Their brainstorming session was interrupted by the station's proximity alarm. Michael groaned, slumping back in his chair. "Let me guess, more uninvited guests." Sophia stood, her glowing patterns brightening. "It is an Athren signal, not Varric's ship, but familiar nonetheless." Michael frowned. "Friends or foes?" Sophia tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "That remains to be seen." The Athren ship landed with far less drama than the previous encounters. Its design was elegant and unassuming, and two figures emerged, their glowing patterns similar to Sophia's but more muted. Michael watched from a safe distance as Sophia stepped forward to greet them. The taller of the two Athren spoke first, his tone clipped. "Sophia Tor, you have drawn much attention with your actions." "I act according to my principles," Sophia replied evenly. "If that draws attention, so be it." The shorter Athren, a woman with intricate silver patterns, studied Michael with open curiosity. "And this is the human you have chosen to ally with?" Michael gave an awkward wave. "Hi. Michael Clark, professional toast burner and occasional alien trouble magnet." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Your humor is peculiar." "Yeah, I get that a lot," Michael said. "So, what brings you to our little corner of chaos?" The taller Athren ignored him, addressing Sophia instead. "You must understand the gravity of your situation. The artifact you have activated is not merely an heirloom. It is a beacon, a signal to forces far beyond our control." Sophia's gaze didn't waver. "I am aware of its significance. That is precisely why I must protect it." Michael cleared his throat. Sorry to interrupt the dramatic alien standoff, but if this thing is so dangerous, shouldn't we, I don't know, turn it off?" The Athren woman shook her head. "It cannot be deactivated now. The signal has been sent. Those who seek its power will come." Michael sighed. "Of course they will. Because nothing says fun like hosting a cosmic treasure hunt." With the artifact's activation attracting attention, they needed a plan. The Athren visitors, Alan and Maris, reluctantly agreed to assist. Michael, ever the optimist, decided to take charge of fortifying the station. "Okay," he said, pacing the room, "here's the plan. We reinforce the station's defenses, set up some traps, and hope for the best." "Any objections?" Maris raised a hand. "What are traps?" Michael blinked. "You don't have traps on Athra?" "Like nets, pits, stuff that stops bad guys." "We do not rely on such crude measures," Maris replied. "Well, you're in my world now," Michael said, grabbing a toolbox. "And here, crude measures are all we've got." The next few hours were a whirlwind of improvised engineering and questionable decisions. Michael rigged up an energy field around the station using spare parts and a healthy dose of duct tape. Sophia and the Athrens focused on calibrating the artifact, ensuring its energy didn't spiral out of control. At one point, Michael found himself explaining the concept of camouflage to Alan. "So you're telling me," Alan said, holding a bundle of leaves, "that these will hide me?" "Exactly," Michael said. It's simple but effective. Just stick to the bushes and don't make any noise. Alan looked skeptical but complied, draping himself in foliage. Michael couldn't resist snapping a photo with his communicator. "Gotta document this for posterity," he said, grinning. As night fell, the station's defenses were in place, and the team gathered in the main lab. The artifact pulsed softly, its light casting eerie shadows on the walls. Michael leaned back in his chair, sipping a cup of lukewarm coffee. "So, what's the plan when the bad guys show up? Do we fight, run, or try to negotiate?" Sophia's gaze was steady. "We will defend the artifact. It must not fall into their hands." "Right," Michael said, setting his mug down. "No pressure or anything." The room fell silent, the weight of the situation settling over them. Michael glanced around at his unlikely companions, an alien princess too skeptical for her own good, too enigmatic a threats, and a glowing relic of unimaginable power. "Well," he said, breaking the tension, "if we're going to face down a horde of intergalactic treasure hunters, we might as well do it in style. Anyone up for some snacks?" Maris raised an eyebrow. "Snacks?" "Yeah," Michael said. "Trust me, everything's better with snacks." Despite the looming threat, Sophia smiled faintly. "Your optimism is peculiar, Michael Clark." "Peculiar is my middle name," Michael replied as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Michael couldn't help but marvel at how far he'd come, from an ordinary scientist content with quiet routines and burnt toast to a reluctant participant in an interstellar drama. Whatever came next, he was ready. Sort of. The storm arrived at midnight. Michael stood at the observation deck, watching as the horizon shimmered with incoming ships. The station's defenses hummed faintly beneath his feet, a patchwork of improvised tech and sheer desperation. Around him, the others prepared for the fight. Sophia stood by the artifact, her glowing patterns bright and steady, a stark contrast to Michael's jittery energy. Alan and Maris flanked her, their stances resolute despite their earlier skepticism of this human-made fortress. "This is it," Michael said, forcing a grin. "The grand finale. Think we can charge tickets?" Sophia turned to him, her gaze soft but serious. "Humor will not shield you from what comes true," Michael admitted, tapping the wrench strap to his belt, "but it might keep me sane." The first wave came in silence, a sleek black ship descending like a predatory bird. Michael's makeshift energy field held, the ship's attempts to breach it were repelled with satisfying sparks. "Ha!" Michael shouted, pumping his fist. Score one for human ingenuity. But his triumph was short-lived. A second ship followed, then a third, each testing the defenses with growing intensity. Inside the station, the artifact pulsed in response, its light growing brighter with each attack. "They're trying to overload the field," Sophia said, her voice calm despite the urgency. "It will not hold forever." "Great," Michael muttered, scrambling to adjust the power levels. "Any brilliant ideas?" "Because I'm running low on duct tape." As the defenses strained, Sophia stepped forward, her glowing patterns flaring in intricate, mesmerizing sequences. The artifact responded, emitting a wave of energy that rippled through the station. "What are you doing?" Michael asked, shielding his eyes from the light. "I am harmonizing with the artifact," Sophia said, her voice distant. "It can amplify my power, but only if I maintain focus." Michael hesitated, torn between admiration and worry. "And what happens if you can't maintain focus?" Sophia glanced at him, her expression softening. "Then you must protect it in my stead." "No pressure," Michael said, though his heart tightened. The battle raged on, the air thick with tension. Despite their differences, the makeshift team worked together seamlessly. Maris and Alan coordinated the station's defenses, Michael patched up weak points, and Sophia held the artifact's power in check. Through it all, Michael found himself marveling at how far they'd come. Weeks ago, he had been an ordinary scientist, content with quiet routines and burnt toast. Now, he was standing shoulder to shoulder with beings from another world, fighting to protect something far bigger than himself. The turning point came when the lead ship deployed its ground team, four armored figures armed with advanced weaponry. They moved with precision, bypassing the energy field and heading straight for the station. "Time for Plan B," Michael said, grabbing his makeshift weapon, a metal pipe wrapped in glowing wires. "You have a Plan B?" Maris asked, her tone incredulous. "Not really," Michael admitted. "But it sounds cooler than saying I'm winging it." The confrontation was chaotic, a blur of energy blasts and improvised tactics. Michael found himself face to face with one of the intruders, who raised a sleek weapon aimed directly at his chest. "Ah, hi," Michael said, raising his hands. "Quick question, do you guys take bribes?" The armored figure hesitated just long enough for Sophia to intervene. A wave of energy rippled from her, disarming the attacker and sending them stumbling back. "You must leave," Sophia said, her voice carrying an authority even Michael hadn't heard before. The figures regrouped, their leader stepping forward. "We will not leave without the artifact." Sophia's patterns flared brighter, her presence almost blinding. "Then you leave with nothing." The artifact's final surge was both beautiful and terrifying, a crescendo of light and sound that shook the station to its core. Michael felt the energy pulse through him, a strange warmth that erased his fear. When the light faded, the intruders were gone, their ships retreating, vanishing into the darkness. The station was silent save for the faint hum of the artifact, now dormant once more. Michael collapsed into a chair, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "So," he said, looking at Sophia, "did we win?" Sophia smiled, the glow in her patterns softening. "For now."